to international arbitration and to understanding that the Indian judiciary and the Indian government is very committed to applying the principles of the independence of international arbitration and its supremacy where the parties have chosen international arbitration. My colleagues and I would like to help you in any way we can. We'd like to offer you full support in your objectives of making India a very successful economic country. We would love the opportunity to participate with you in this, and we'd just like to thank you for coming to see us today and for making the time in what I'm sure is a very busy week to make the time to come to see us. We have really, really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know you, and I hope that this is the beginning, at the very early beginning, of a long and fruitful relationship with all of you. And certainly we hope that we would like to have lots of opportunities to assist you in the future. So thank you. Thank you.
I think one of the issues is that you might like to explain a little about the 1996 Act and how perhaps overseas it is simply not understood that India is applying this, and I'd be very grateful if you'd mention it.
Okay. The Indian arbitration law has come a long way since the early 90s when it was first introduced. It was introduced in different forms but not exactly applicable in the commercial field of law. Over time, with the 1940 Act and the various treaties that India entered into, mainly the New York Convention, the Geneva, so those principles were gradually brought within the Indian legal sphere and made applicable in India. If I think most of you would be knowing, India is a monoist state in the sense that every treaty that the Indian government enters into does not by itself becomes applicable in India, even though it is ratified by the Indian Parliament. It has to be imbibed into an Indian Act, and that is how it becomes applicable. So this is what was brought by the 1960s. They had separate acts in order to make these conventions applicable in India. Now, 1996, they gave force to an ordinance of the President, whereby they assimilated all these forms and brought about one common code which dealt with all these forms of arbitration. The main issues that it dealt with were, especially now, most of us know that in India, a civil suit has a very long period before a final result comes out. Therefore, arbitration had gained all the more importance in India. Now, by the 1996 Act, there were different parts of it which were made applicable to different kinds of arbitration. Now, it was a little vague as to how far the Indian Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 applied to international arbitrations, which was then sought to be judged upon by the Bharti International case recently in 1999, which was finally decided, and where the Supreme Court held that the same limitations of the courts of interfering with any arbitral measure would also apply to international arbitrations, which in effect was to plug a loophole in the interpretation which was earlier being given to this code. Now, it is still a matter of great debate that how far the Supreme Court was authorized to plug that loophole, because after all it's a measure of the legislation and not adjudication. That matter is still being discussed with the members of the Parliament and the Law Ministry, because they want a legislative measure, because some say till the Supreme Court judgment of Bharti International prevails, this is the law, that it would also apply to international arbitrations. But then, because it is by a judgment, there is an uncertainty which looms large, because another bench may take a different view. In order to remove that uncertainty and in order to allay the fears of companies which are entering into such international arbitrations, the Indian government plans to bring about an amendment in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. But how long it will take is something that we'll have to just wait and see. And well, that's basically just I think it's arbitration.
If I could comment on that, I think that would be an extremely interesting message to pass to international investors. And one of the things we were discussing it would be helpful to do is to do a series of seminars, maybe in Mumbai, Delhi and Chennai, to give various messages about the safety of investment and the fact that the Indian courts will be subservient to international arbitration. And this is one of the topics I think it would be extremely useful to mention, the fact that the Indian government is committed to this and are talking about making a new amendment, bringing in a new part of the Act.
I think that's a very fruitful measure, especially because there are a very large number of lawyers who are practicing in the district courts and the subdivisional courts in India. Now, that is where issues of arbitration initially arise. They may ultimately go to the Supreme Court, but the foundations of every matter are set there. So, it would enable them as well in order to raise those objections at the very lower court. So, we can have a wide participation of members if such kind of conferences are held in Delhi, Mumbai, and these other cities. And because of the great significance which is attached to arbitration, because as a result of Indian delays in litigation, I think it's absolutely essential.
Absolutely.
The more the clarity, the more it will be in vogue. Arbitration clauses are largely being, lawyers across are being inspired by that, are imbibing such clauses in virtually every agreement that they enter into. So it's something that will majorly help me.
And I understand the Law Society would be...
Yes, I would be very supportive of it. We've been in the discussion with a number of parties in India regarding seminars and legal education, but also building the friendship and relationship between Indian practitioners and English practitioners. So we'd be very, very keen to support and be involved in practice type issues all throughout India as a sign of friendship and growing relationship. India will soon lead, I believe, Asia, outstrip China and other countries, and we very much would like to be a partner in that development and that growth.
I think we should have a
Because the seminar will make the people know of India.
Partner, Mr. Raj Karya, partner of this international firm, and my old friends in the Law Society and the new friend going to be the first secretary in the Deputy British High Commission in Mumbai, and my friends. On behalf of my friends, delegates from India, I am thankful to the Law Society, to the Norton Rose International Law Firm for giving us this opportunity to understand the working of the law firms here and the willingness of international law firms to get India more foreign investment. And we appreciate that with your efforts, with the efforts of the international law firms, we are able to get good position in financial status in the world. And further, we are making our laws very liberal, but still something more is required. Some more amendments which will further liberalize our economic policies, further liberalize our procedure to have the foreign investment in India. We are the representatives of the different bar councils and bar associations. Mr. P.C. Pan is the chairman of the State Bar Council of Chhattisgarh. This is a statutory body. Mr. Jatan Singh is the, let you present while that you come here. Either you stay here. Yes.
I'm sorry I don't have anything more grand than pens to give you, but I think what is more important is that we give you our hearts.
This is for, on behalf of all of us.
Thank you. I haven't got anything that says lovely.
Thank you.
But we would like to give you every support that we can.
So, as we were discussing, that our lawyers are not actually knowing at the different places that what is the purpose of entry of foreign lawyers in India. And that is the reason we came here to assess that what actually you want to do. Because not in normal course, we were thinking that everywhere, in every city, the foreign lawyers will come, sit in the court, practice there, and our clients, even local clients, will be engaging the foreign lawyers. That was the basic fear in the minds of 10 lakh lawyers in
17
the
lakhs.
country.
17 lakhs. Total numbers are 17 lakhs.
So,
It's a small amount compared
we
to
had rallies in year 2000 in Delhi. Throughout India, there were rallies against this proposal of entry of foreign lawyers. And in New Delhi, Parliament Street, or near the Parliament House, there were lathi charge on the lawyers. There was so much fighting between police and lawyers on this issue. Many lawyers were arrested also and injured. Total courts were closed throughout India. So, on 8th December, the delegation of Law Society visited India. We had meeting. That time also it came up, this issue. But as we are the representatives of we are elected representatives of the lawyers, and when such atmosphere was there, my chairman that time tried to tell the delegation that we are doing, but I specially told as the Vice Chairman of Bar Council of India in that meeting that at this moment we are totally opposed to the entry of foreign lawyers. But when I had a meeting with Mr. Dermot. That time I had a discussion what is the basic requirement of the foreign lawyers. But then I told him that it requires little bit briefing to Indian lawyers. A message, because immediately neither the government will pass, although we have entered into that agreement. One such type of agitation was there. A law minister has to resign. Mr. Ram Jethmalani ultimately resigned on that very issue when so many lawyers were